Perceive is about four interconnected teenagers and their families in a small town, and you meet them just as things begin to unravel in their lives. Characters start to get suspicious, and certain questions are finally asked. One of the primary themes in the book, as the title insinuates, is perception. So, how the characters see themselves and how others see them. I've always been drawn to the idea of wondering if a person's life is the way it appears from afar, and more often than not, it won't be, as we only get a glimpse from an outsider's perspective. But I wanted to explore that, so it was only a matter of time before I incorporated that concept as a key element in one of my books. The book's written entirely in third person, which allowed a much broader, deeper insight into the main characters' lives. Whereas in my first book, it was written entirely in first person, which may have had more effect reading it from the main character's perspective, but at the same time, the information at hand was much more limited. Whereas in this book, the fact that it revolves around four families, it was crucial that I wrote it in that third person ominous perspective, so I was able to allow the reader access in knowing what was happening in each of the four households. Whereas if I was to write it just from the viewpoint of one character, it wouldn't have worked, because there's no way that a single character would be able to have access to what was going on in each of the four families. So it was a no-brainer right from the start that it was going to be written in third person. The book is aimed at older readers as it deals with some darker themes in comparison to my first. There's an adulterous affair that's going on, substance abuse, characters who are pushed to their limits, forcing them to make decisions that they otherwise wouldn't, which leads to some of the characters inadvertently ruining their lives. I'm definitely not planning a sequel at this point. Considering the circumstances in which some of the characters are left in, I believe it holds a stronger impact to leave the story as a standalone novel. That way the reader is able to comprehend the full ramifications that the characters involved are inevitably about to face in the aftermath. Given that the book is set in a small town community, any issue or private matter that surfaced to become public knowledge is magnified by those most affected, whereas had the story been set in a large city, any scandal or trouble that was to come about wouldn't hold anywhere near as much significance. So it was rather important right from the beginning to make sure that the setting be in a small town, because it assisted in raising the stakes throughout the book, and as well as the tension which every story needs to thrive on in order to be more interesting. There's a real satisfaction that comes with writing a story that you were deeply yearning to write. I believe I got the initial seed of an idea for Perceive back when I was 21, and it just slowly grew from there. I've always been very open to feedback, be it positive or negative. I was very thick-skinned from back in my early 20s to hearing any constructive feedback, because I think that it's the negative feedback that's going to end up helping you to most improve and grow as an author.